Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti. These creatures have been reported by thousands of witnesses across the world. But what if the real explanation isn't hidden somewhere in the wilderness, but inside the human brain? To understand why people believe in these creatures, we first need to look at one of the most famous cryptids ever reported: Bigfoot. Bigfoot is one of the most famous mysterious creatures in the world. Most descriptions portray a massive ape-like creature walking upright through the forests of North America. What makes Bigfoot especially compelling is that it looks almost human. Our brains are extremely sensitive to human shapes and movement. Psychologists say part of this comes from a phenomenon called pareidolia. It's when our brains see meaningful patterns, especially faces or human figures, in random shapes. This ability actually helped our ancestors survive. Early humans needed to quickly recognize other people or predators hiding in the environment. Mistaking a shadow for a person was safer than ignoring a real threat. So when someone sees movement deep in the forest, their brain may interpret it as a human-like creature, even if it's just shadows, trees, or an animal moving through the brush. That's one reason Bigfoot sightings often happen in dense forests, where visibility is low and the brain fills in the gaps. The Loch Ness Monster, often called Nessie, is said to live in a large lake in the Scottish Highlands known as Loch Ness. For decades, people have reported seeing something large moving beneath the surface of the water. Some describe a long neck rising above the lake, while others claim to see massive shapes moving deep below. But part of what makes the Loch Ness Monster so believable is the environment itself. Humans are naturally uncomfortable with deep water because we can't see what's beneath the surface. This taps into something psychologists call fear of the unknown, our tendency to imagine threats when information is limited. In fact, Loch Ness is incredibly deep. At its deepest point, the lake reaches more than 700 feet, and the water is dark and murky, making it almost impossible to see far below the surface. When our brains can't clearly see what's there, they start filling in the blanks. And sometimes those imagined shapes turn into monsters. The Chupacabra is one of the most famous cryptids in Latin American folklore. Its name literally means goat sucker because stories often describe it as a creature that attacks livestock and drains their blood. Reports of the Chupacabra spread quickly in places where unexplained animal deaths were already frightening people. And that's part of why this legend became so powerful. When something disturbing happens, especially to animals people depend on, the human brain immediately starts searching for a cause. But uncertainty is uncomfortable. Our minds don't like unanswered questions. So when livestock are found injured, dead, or strangely marked, people often prefer a dramatic explanation over no explanation at all. This connects to a psychological tendency called agent detection, the brain's habit of assuming that something intentional caused an event. In other words, instead of thinking, maybe this was disease, decay, or a known predator, the brain asks, what did this? And when fear spreads through a community, that explanation can grow into something much bigger. Stories are repeated, details become more dramatic, and before long, a mysterious animal death becomes evidence of a creature hiding in the dark. That's one reason the Chupacabra became so popular. It gave people a clear villain for events that felt disturbing and hard to explain. Mothman is one of the strangest cryptids in American folklore. In the 1960s, people in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, began reporting sightings of a tall, winged creature with glowing red eyes. Witnesses described it as something almost human, but not quite. A dark figure that seemed to move unnaturally, sometimes appearing near roads, fields, and even above cars. What made Mothman especially powerful wasn't just the creature itself, it was the timing. When people are already anxious or unsettled, strange events feel even more meaningful. And once a dramatic story enters a community, something interesting happens. More people begin interpreting unusual sights through that same story. This is connected to a psychological tendency called confirmation bias, the habit of noticing and remembering things that support what we already believe while ignoring things that don't. So if someone in town says they saw a winged figure with red eyes, the next person who sees an owl, a shadow, or something moving at night may start connecting it to the same creature. In other words, the story begins shaping the way people interpret what they see. This is also how fear spreads socially. One frightening account becomes several, several become local legend, and before long, the creature feels real, not because everyone saw the exact same thing, but because the community began sharing the same explanation. That's one reason Mothman became so memorable. It wasn't just a monster in the dark. It was a monster reinforced by rumor, fear, and the power of collective belief. The Yeti, sometimes called the abominable snowman, is a legendary creature said to live high in the Himalayan mountains. Unlike some cryptids that are tied to forests or small communities, the Yeti is connected to one of the most extreme and remote environments on Earth. And that matters psychologically. The human mind is naturally drawn to places that feel isolated, dangerous, and difficult to explore. When a place seems mysterious enough, people become more willing to believe that something unknown could still be hiding there. The Himalayas are the perfect setting for that kind of belief. They're vast, freezing, and in many areas incredibly difficult to search. So, when people hear stories about strange footprints in the snow or a large figure moving across a mountainside, it doesn't feel completely impossible. It feels just plausible enough. And that's a big reason the Yeti became so popular. Unlike creatures that sound purely fantastical, the Yeti fits into a real-world setting that already feels mysterious and unforgiving. There's also something powerful about the image itself, a huge human-like creature surviving where almost no humans can. That taps into a deeper psychological idea, the belief that nature is still hiding secrets we haven't fully uncovered. In other words, the Yeti represents more than a monster. It represents the possibility that even in the modern world, there are still places beyond our understanding. Bigfoot in the forests of North America, the Loch Ness Monster beneath the dark waters of Scotland, the Chupacabra stalking livestock in rural farms, Mothman appearing in the shadows of a small town, and the Yeti high in the frozen mountains of the Himalayas. At first glance, these creatures seem completely different, but they all share something important in common. They appear in places where humans have limited visibility, limited information, and plenty of imagination. In forests, shadows can look like figures. In deep water, movement beneath the surface can feel like something watching. In remote mountains, strange footprints can become evidence of something unknown. Our brains evolved to look for patterns, detect threats, and explain the unexplained. And sometimes those instincts create something powerful. Stories. Stories that spread through communities, grow over time, and eventually become legends. So whether these creatures exist or not, the reason we believe in them might say more about the human mind than it does about monsters hiding in the dark.